back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back here.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, January 10th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining. Between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers, we appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day. So any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're actually going to start off the show, believe it or not, by recapping last night's game between Notre Dame and Penn State. Notre Dame won 27-24 to advance to the national championship game. So we'll get into that. I'll also give you my pick for the Ohio State-Texas game. And then also I wanted to bring up briefly in this segment as well that Carson Beck will be entering the transfer portal. So a few things to cover in this topic, but mainly to talk about last night's game between Notre Dame and Penn State because it was a very good game. Then for the remaining segments, we will go through all of the NFL playoff games. So in the second part of the show, I wanted to highlight the Bills-Broncos game because that was the game that I am most intrigued by when I did my rankings yesterday. So we're going to talk about that. Then we'll get into both Saturday games in the third segment. That is the Texans-Chargers game as well as the Ravens-Steelers game. And then in the fourth part of the show, we'll get into the other two Sunday games, two Week 1 rematches, Packers and Eagles and Commanders and Buccaneers. And then in the final part of the show, I will reveal my playoff bracket for the NFL postseason, how I think all the rounds are going to shape out. Now, I did give my Super Bowl prediction before the year started, so now it's all about what happens in between this round and when we get to the big game. So, now let's get into the first topic, which is talking about last night's game between Notre Dame and Penn State. And like I said, entertaining game. Now, did get off to a slow start. It was pretty low scoring, and one of my coworkers was upset because they had a little wager on the over, and it looked like the over was not going to hit. And then at the end of the game, it did end up hitting for them. So, in the first half, not a lot of scoring. Penn State led 10-3 at the half. They were up 10-0. And actually, Riley Leonard, the quarterback for Notre Dame, ended up getting hurt at one point, so he left briefly. I think he was being evaluated for a concussion, so he left briefly. And they had to bring in Steve Angeli, who went 6 of 7 for 44 yards. Now, Notre Dame got 3 points at the end of the first half, and it looked like at one point, it looked like on that drive that Notre Dame fumbled and Penn State recovered. And this is when they were at the Penn State 41-yard line. I don't know how Penn State didn't recover the fumble, because immediately when the play happens, I thought, all right, well, there goes that drive. But Notre Dame ended up recovering. They got into field goal range, and Mitch Jeter, who ended up being the hero of the night, he kicked a 41-yard field goal, and that made it 10-3. But also, if you go back to Penn State when they went up 3-0, they could have had a touchdown. Their running back, Singleton, who had a big game, Nicholas Singleton, he had 3 touchdowns on the night. He dropped a walk-in touchdown. And that would have made it 7-0 Penn State. And, you know, when I was listening to the radio broadcasts for both teams. I forget which. I think it was the Notre Dame post game. They said, if that ends up being a touchdown, who knows what happens? Does Penn State end up winning the game? Anthony in the chat saying, do you think fans are just emotional right now for Penn State calling for James Franklin to be fired after this loss to Notre Dame? I think so. I mean, Penn State had a really good year. I think they need to, give it a couple weeks. Just gotta calm down. It was a heartbreaking loss. I do agree with that statement. But so that was a big play in the game. Like I said, the drop touchdown by Singleton. So it was 10-3 at the half. Then Notre Dame, they came right out in the second half. They went right down the field, scored a touchdown. Riley Leonard scored a 3-yard rushing touchdown. So that made it 10-10. And then this is when we saw a lot of action from the end of the third quarter on. So then Notre Dame went up 17-10. They went on a 10-play, 71-yard drive. And this was a pretty good touchdown run by Notre Dame. Jeremiah Love, he refused to go down, and he scored. And this is, it's probably one of the better 2-yard rushing touchdowns you'll ever see. Because I thought he was going to be tackled short of the goal line, but he just would not be denied, and he ended up scoring. So that made it 17-10. And then Penn State answered right away. They went 7 plays, 75 yards down the field. Warren, the tight end, he had a big game. 6 receptions for 75 yards. He had a 27-yard catch on that play. And later in the drive, Singleton scored. I think that was his second touchdown of the game. Yeah, that was the second touchdown of the game. So that made it 17-17. And then first play of the Notre Dame's ensuing drive, Riley Leonard throws a pick. And at that point, I thought, well, Penn State's going to win this game probably. And that later led to a Singleton rushing touchdown. Now, Drew Aller had a couple of interceptions that got called back because of penalties, and one of them happened on this drive. He threw an interception in the end zone, and there was a pass interference call. And I think it was the right call because I was listening to the Notre Dame postgame at that point, and they said, that was a bit of a questionable call. And Anthony says, do you agree with that PI call that the ref called in favor of Tyler Warren where the Notre Dame DB didn't even touch him? Well, if that was the one where, the defensive back for Notre Dame had his back turned, yeah, I do think that was the right call. Because he wasn't looking at the ball. So I did agree with if that was the second one, because I know that happened twice. I know if you're talking about the second one, I did agree with the call. But yeah, so that led to a touchdown. That was Singleton's third touchdown, so that made it 24-17. And then Notre Dame answered. They went 7 plays, 81 yards, and Riley Leonard connected with Greathouse for 54 yards. 2 players on Penn State's defense, they both fell. So that helped out Notre Dame on that. So that tied the game. Both teams punted, and then this was Aller's interception that stood, and he had pressure coming, and he threw it into the middle of the field. It gets picked off, and Notre Dame ends up getting into field goal range. Mitch Jeter for the 41-yard field goal. It was good, and Notre Dame ends up winning the game. Like I said, it was very, it's a slow start, but, the fourth quarter, there was a lot of action. And Notre Dame is going to the national championship game for the first time in a decade, they said. So good for them. They have come a long way, because I remember in our production meeting, we talked about them after they lost to Northern Illinois the second week of the season. But they have come a long way since then, and they will be awaiting the matchup, or the winner of the matchup between Texas and Ohio State. But that was a fun game to watch. Tough loss for Penn State. Aller's going to have to live with that pick. And he's one of those guys that I think was on the fence of declaring for the draft, depending on how he did. But he was not great last night. His stats on the night, he finished 12 of 23 for 135 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. But Nicholas Singleton, 15 carries, 84 yards, 3 touchdowns. Allen, their other running back, He had 82 yards on the ground. Penn State, 204 yards rushing in this game. And then for Notre Dame, Riley Leonard, he went 15 to 23 for, he had 1 touchdown and 2 picks, 223 yards. Notre Dame ran the ball for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jaden Greathouse stepped up, 7 receptions for 105 yards and a touchdown. And, yeah, they get the win. Anthony said, no, I saw that play again. The guy who intercepted the ball was the one that got called for the pass interference, not the guy who was guarding Warren. Oh. See, that I didn't know. But, I mean, there was pass. Well, I think they meant to call it on the guy that was interfering with Warren, but that might just be me. Anthony also said, I talked to a lot of people who are my friends that are Penn State fans, and they want Franklin to be fired because of the fact that not just this loss, but his overall record against top 25 teams. I see, off the top of my head, I don't know what the record is, but if it's not good, then I understand why they're frustrated. But they had the game. Listen, they were up by 7 points, and then you had the 2 defenders fall. Greathouse scores that touchdown, and then Aller throws the pick. And that ended their season. So I get it. It's frustrating. And I had Penn State winning this game. I thought this was going to be a lower score. I mean, looked like it was going to be a lower scoring game. But I did want to see the Big Ten championship, a possible Big Ten national championship game between Penn State and Ohio State. So it looks like we're not getting that. But Notre Dame is a good team. Respect to them. But let's get into now these last couple of minutes here at the top of the show here. So I do have Ohio State winning tonight. And some people are probably rolling their eyes and being like, oh, no surprise there. They are playing really good right now. That Michigan game is in the past now. They look good. I mean, they beat the number 1 team in the country in Oregon with ease. They just look like a different team right now. They look like the team of destiny at the moment. So I like their chances. Texas, hasn't played great in these first 2 games. They won both. They beat Clemson and they beat the Sun Devils, but they could have lost to the Sun Devils. So I just think Ohio State is playing better right now, and I think they should win. But we'll see. I think it's going to be a good game regardless. And then I just wanted to bring up that Carson Beck is entering the transfer portal. Did not play in the college football playoff. He was injured. And I guess, again, another guy that was going to declare for the draft, but now he enters free agency, and we'll see where he ends up going. I saw that Miami might be a possible destination for him. So we'll see if he can, he's got 1 more year, and, if he goes out and has a good year, then his stock is going to be up for the following NFL draft. But, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up as well. Anthony also says, I'm sticking to my guns. I have Texas and Notre Dame in the national championship game with Notre Dame winning by 3 points. You might end up being right because, sometimes when I go one way, the opposite happens. But it should be a good game tonight. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about the game from last night. Who do you think is going to win the Texas-Ohio State game? And also, any thoughts on Carson Beck entering the transfer portal? So we are going to take our first break of the show now. And then when we come back, we'll talk about the Bills-Broncos game. Can the Broncos upset the Bills? We'll get into that when we return. I'll give you my prediction for the game when we come back. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to now talk about one of the playoff games in the NFL. We'll now move into that. The Bills-Broncos game, which if you watched the show yesterday, you saw that I listed that as ranked that as my most intriguing matchup going into this weekend. Also, I wanted to answer a couple of Anthony's comments before we went to break. He said, I think Carson Beck made the right decision. He saw that his draft stock got affected really bad. Instead of being drafted in the first 3 rounds, he was going to be drafted in the 4th. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And then he also said Texas was just playing down to their opponent. I don't think they were taking Arizona State seriously. Well, they were up in that game, and then Arizona State pulled off a comeback in the 4th quarter. I know Quinn Ewers threw a pick that led to points for the Sun Devils, and then that game went into overtime. I mean, maybe you're right, but Texas was up in that game. You know, that game could have been over after 4 quarters, but you know, the Quinn Ewers pick, and that led to part of the reason they came back in the 4th quarter. I think that was part of the reason why they came back. But let's get into some NFL stuff, shall we? So yeah, this game here, I am intrigued by. I like how the Broncos have been playing as of late. Now, can they upset the Bills? Now, they did beat them last year in Orchard Park. Now, Russell Wilson was the quarterback, different team. But just wanted to bring that up. But also it was because the Bills, I think they were offsides on the field goal attempt by Will Lutz, and then that led to a 5-yard penalty. There was a re-kick, and then Lutz made the field goal, and they won at the end. But, you know, it's different now because now you got a rookie quarterback in there. And obviously, you know, the Bills are different. You know, there's no Stephon Diggs in this game. But I am really intrigued by this game. The Broncos are a team that I did not expect to be at this point. I thought they were going to be a 5-win team. But they're here now as the 7th seed. And I do think they have a shot. Now, it is a pretty big line. I think it went up to 9.5. I want to double check, though. It's 8. All right, so it's 8.5. But yeah, still, pretty big line. And the Broncos are coming off of a dominating performance over the Chiefs' backups. Now, yeah, you don't want to get caught up in that because it was the Chiefs' backups. I don't think we're going to see the Broncos put up 38 points in this game. The key for the Broncos is they need to, and I've definitely said this before, is to establish their running game. They need to get a consistent running game in this matchup because the Bills can put up points with anybody, and they put them up in bunches. And I think if the Broncos have to get into a shootout with the Bills, I don't think they're going to be able to keep up offensively. But if they can keep the game close, if they can dominate time of possession, if they can sustain drives and keep Josh Allen and that offense off the field, I think they got a shot. I think that, and that's easier said than done. Bo Nix put together a nice rookie season. I didn't really know what to expect from him going into this year, but you know, I've continued to praise Sean Payton and the coaching staff for what they've been able to do with this team. And, you know, Bo Nix, looks like the Broncos found their franchise quarterback. And the Broncos, it's been a long time since they made the postseason. You know, the last time they made it was when they won the Super Bowl. Back in 2015, Super Bowl 50. And there is nobody on that team that's playing for this Broncos team. Now, there is a player that will be playing in this game that was on that Broncos team, and that was Von Miller. I forgot about that going into this matchup. Because I saw he said that everything's come full circle now, playing the Broncos in the playoffs. You know, first time they've made it since they won the Super Bowl with him, when he won Super Bowl MVP. That Broncos defense was unbelievable. Now, this Broncos defense is pretty good, just not Not like that, no fly zone, and yeah, you had Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware and Malik Jackson. That was a great defense. That was one of the greatest defenses of my lifetime, watching football. Between that, the Legion of Boom, the Ravens defenses with Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs and Ed Reed. Seen some pretty good defenses in my life. Now, not like I was around during the '85 Bears era or the 2000 Ravens, but I've seen some pretty good defenses in my lifetime, and no fly zone is definitely up there. But back to this game, though, that's really how I see the Broncos, the pathway to the Broncos winning this game. And also the other thing, too, is Bo Nix cannot turn the ball over. Because the Bills will capitalize on that. Josh Allen in that offense will capitalize on that. So, yeah, again, it's easier said than done, but I think that's the key. Establish the run and limit the turnovers. And, Bo Nix has done a nice job at times of doing that, but can't afford to do that in this game. Now, if you go back to when they played the Ravens, that was a big test for them. And, that game was close for a little bit, but then the Ravens pulled away. Ravens ended up winning that game. Well, Ravens ended up winning that game 41-10. So it was, at one point, what was it? Well, it was 10-7 in the second quarter. Then it was 17-10. Yeah, it was 24-10 at the half, and then the Ravens shut them out. That was back in week 9. But, then they had the Chiefs on the ropes. They had a chance to win that game, and, the blocked field goal happened. The Chargers, they lost 2 close games to the Chargers, and, they lost in overtime to the Bengals. So, yeah, I mean, they haven't fared well against, some of the good teams here. So we'll see what they do in this spot. I mean, it's the playoffs. Anything can happen. I think the Broncos are kind of playing with house money. Not a lot of people expected them to be here, but they are a good team, though. They are a good team. And it's going to be all about trying to slow down Josh Allen, which is not going to be easy. You're not going to completely shut him down. But if you can try to contain him for a little bit, then maybe you have a chance. But if this game gets out of hand, I mean, I don't think the Broncos are going to be able to, if the Bills go up like 14-0, I don't think the Broncos are going to come back. Got to keep it within distance. But we'll see. I mean, the Bills, it's different because, when they had Stephon Diggs last year, that's who, you would have Patrick Surtain match up against. But now, they could beat you different ways. I mean, Josh Allen spreads the ball around. So it could be a different guy that beats you. Whether it's one of the tight ends or if it's, Keon Coleman or Khalil Shakir, Amari Cooper, Mac Hollins. I think Mac Hollins leads the team in touchdown receptions. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. And then on top of that, you got to deal with Josh Allen if he runs with the football. And it's going to be hard to take him down. James Cook's had a good season. So, yeah, I'm curious to see how it goes. But I could definitely see this game being a blowout in the Bills' favor. But maybe the Broncos keep it close. And I think Sean Payton will come up with a game plan where they could keep it within distance. And maybe it comes down to a last-second field goal. Now, in terms of who I think is going to win the game, having said all that, I think the Bills win this game. I just think that you got the MVP on the team. I think it's just going to be a little too much for the Broncos to overcome in this matchup. I think they'll show up, they'll play well, but I could definitely see a scenario where it's close and then the Bills end up pulling away. I just think Josh Allen is playing the best football of his career right now, and it's hard for me to see him lose this game in this spot at home where he does relatively well in the playoffs. I think the only Actually, no. He lost to Burrow and he lost to Mahomes last year. But, yeah, I think the Bills win this game. I think, like I said, it could be close at a certain point, but then the Bills pull away. But, yeah, I can't pick against the Bills in this spot. I'm going to take them here. But if the Broncos win, that would be unexpected. I mean, at this point in all my years of watching football, nothing surprises me, but I definitely would be a little surprised because, going on the road, rookie quarterback, I think the Bills should win this. So, yeah, I like the Bills in this spot. I think they get the win. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about this matchup. Who do you think wins? Let me know. And this will be a Nance Romo vehicle, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on CBS. So that'll get us started for the Sunday tripleheader. So we got 2 Saturday, 3 Sunday, and then the Monday night game between the Rams and the Vikings, which we will preview on Monday. So, yeah. But let me know what you guys think, though. Who wins? I got the Bills winning. I might take the Broncos with the points. Maybe they win. Bills win 31-23, 31-24, something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's a little too high scoring. Or 27-20 maybe. Like I said, I think I might lean towards taking the Broncos with the points, but I just can't pick against the Bills. I can't. But that's my prediction. Who do you guys think is going to win this game? So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again, tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCpodcast.net. That is GSMCpodcast.net. So when we come back from our next break, we will preview the 2 Saturday games, the Chargers and the Texans, and the Steelers and the Ravens. We'll get into those games, and I'll give you my predictions for those matchups when we return. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the third part of the show, we're going to now preview the 2 Saturday wildcard matchups. We got the Chargers and the Texans and the Steelers and the Ravens. So Chargers-Texans, that'll be 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS. I believe Iron Eagle will be calling that game. And then we got the Amazon Prime game. So make sure, you know someone that has Prime if you don't have it. And if you want to watch this game, you got the Steelers and the Ravens. So we'll talk about the Chargers and the Texans first. So Chargers are coming in at 11-6. They are the 5 seed. The Texans, they are coming in at 10-7, and they were the 4th seed. And, I said going into the year that I thought the Chargers could be a sneaky good team because, Harbaugh coming in is going to immediately change the complexion of the franchise. And, they got the quarterback. And, I had them at 9 wins, but hey, they made the playoffs. They got 2 more wins than that. They went 11-6, and they're playing some good football right now. Justin Herbert has played much better in the second half of the year because, the first half of the year, it was kind of the J.K. Dobbins show. Justin Herbert wasn't putting up monster stats. He was efficient, but, they were running the football, and that's what Harbaugh likes to do. And then, Dobbins gets hurt. And then this offense started to open up a little bit more. And, Ladd McConkey, their rookie wide receiver, he had a big year. Quinn Johnson, he had 13 catches on Sunday against the Raiders for almost 200 yards. So, he's looking good. I know drops have still kind of been an issue for him this year, but, compared to how he was last year to now, he's looked like a different receiver. And he's taken on a bigger role because, remember, last year he was like the 3rd or 4th receiver. Because they had Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Well, Mike Williams ended up getting hurt, and Keenan Allen got hurt at the end of the year. But Keenan Allen had a career best year. And, you also, had Austin Eckler, who Herbert would throw to out of the backfield. But, yeah, Quinn Johnson has taken on a bigger role and has had a nice year for them. And, they got J.K. Dobbins back, which is huge for the playoffs. They actually picked up Ezekiel Elliott. Because I think Gus Edwards is hurt. But, it's J.K. Dobbins' backfield. He's the number 1 back on this team. You also got Kamani Vidal as well. But, I like where this Chargers team is heading. The defense is a lot better than what it was last year, and that was another thing that you figured was going to change once Harbaugh took over. And the Chargers are heading in the right direction. This is a team that can also make a run because they play good defense. They got the quarterback. They got the coach. They could definitely make a run. The problem is I just don't think they have enough offensive firepower. I think they're still a year away. If they can go into the draft and free agency, I know there's some connections to maybe T. Higgins, maybe even Chris Godwin as well. I saw another post of it. But again, this is all just, accounts posting it. You don't know how true it is. But there are some receivers out there that the Chargers can go out and get to improve this receiving core. Or maybe Keenan Allen. Because Keenan Allen, I know the source is directly from him saying that he either wants to go back to L.A. or, stay with the Bears. So, if the Chargers brought him back on a cheaper deal, that could work. Because I think Keenan Allen could still play. And, if you reunite him with Justin Herbert, that works. But I still think they're a year away. But having said that, I like them in this game. But on the Texans side, before I get into why I like the Chargers in this game, well, I'll explain it by talking about the Texans. The Texans have kind of been a disappointment. There was never really any games this year where they dominated their opponents. Were they a part of any? I mean, they got blown out by the Vikings. But, well, all right. They did blow out the Patriots. They blew out the Cowboys. But those teams aren't very good. I mean, a lot of their games, a lot of their wins are almost one-score games. So, yeah, they were not overly impressive this year. C.J. Stroud, 20 touchdowns to 12 picks. I thought he was going to take a big leap this year. He ended up having a sophomore slump. But you also have injuries, of course, to their receiving core, Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. The offensive line has not been great. Their defense is still pretty good. But also Joe Mixon, he had he was great 3/4 of the season, but, the last quarter, not so much running the football. So he's going to have a big game here, to kind of take some of the pressure off of C.J. Stroud. But again, it's against a good Chargers defense. But, yeah, I'm not liking what I'm seeing from the Texans going into this game. The Chargers are playing good football right now. So I wanted to go over the league rankings between the two teams. So in terms of offense, the Chargers are 19th in passing yards per game. The Texans are 15th. Rushing yards per game, the Chargers are 17th. The Texans are 15th. Points per game, Chargers are 11th. Texans are 19th. Then defensively, both teams are top 10 against the pass. Texans are 7th, giving up an average of 220.8 passing yards per game. Chargers are 8th, giving up an average of 221.3. Then against the run, both teams, the Texans are just outside the top 10. They're 11th, giving up 114 rushing yards per game. Chargers are 14th, giving up an average of 117.5. And then points allowed, Chargers defense is number 1, giving up an average of 17.7. And the Texans defense is 14th. So, yeah, I mean, these defenses are both pretty good. I mean, the Chargers defense has been, by these metrics, better. Well, mostly when you look at the points allowed. But, yeah, I like the Chargers in this game, though. Justin Herbert on the year, he only has 3 interceptions. And he just missed passing for 4,000 yards. He finished at 3,870 passing yards. J.K. Dobbins, missed some time, but he finished with 905 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. Ladd McConkey, 7 touchdowns on the season. He had 1,100 receiving yards. But yeah, I like the momentum that the Chargers are coming into this game with, and I think they should win. I don't think this game is going to be a blowout. I think this game could be close. I think this could be like a 24-20 ball game, something like that. C.J. Stroud did play well in his playoff debut last year against the Browns. Nico Collins, he's had a good year. He finished with over 1,000 yards receiving. He missed some time this year. He's the number 1 guy. He's going to have to, be the focal point. And hopefully, they can get some kind of a running game going with Joe Mixon. Maybe Mixon, recaptures what he had, earlier in the year. Some of the young receivers that they got are going to have to step up as well. So, yeah, but I favor the Chargers in this matchup. I think they should win, and I got them winning it. But I think it'll be a close ball game. So I like the Chargers. And then we move on to the night game. But let me know what you guys think, though. Who do you think wins that game? We move on to the night game. So we got the Steelers and the Ravens. This will be the grudge match with Sylvester Stallone and Robert De Niro, if you've ever seen that. I think when was it? That movie came out in like 2013. Oh, nope, spoiler. Didn't want to show that. Oh, actually, I guess I don't have a thing for this. I thought I included one. I guess not. Anyways, I apologize for that. So you saw my bracket. Great. Anyways, yeah, so this is the grudge match. Both teams split the season series. The Steelers winning the first matchup 18-16, and the Ravens winning the second matchup 34-17. Now, the Steelers are 9.5-point underdogs in this game. They're coming in on a 4-game losing streak. And, yeah, they're coming in with no momentum, really. Last year, they ended the year on a 3-game winning streak. They ended up losing to the Bills. Maybe the opposite happens. Yeah, I don't think so. I think this game will be closer than what it was when we last saw these two teams face off, 34-17. And the game was close. But some turnovers, the Ravens, I think they capitalized on the Russell Wilson fumble. Because, the Steelers were going for the lead, and then, Russell Wilson ended up fumbling, and I think the Ravens capitalized. Like I said, I think the Ravens capitalized on that. But Derrick Henry had a big game. The Steelers did a good job at holding him down in the first matchup, and he fumbled on the first play in the first matchup, and that turned into 3 points for the Steelers. But he did score a touchdown. He didn't score a touchdown in the last matchup, but like I said, had a big game, had a couple of big runs. Lamar Jackson had a good game. There's going to be no Zay Flowers for this matchup, so that's a big loss for the Ravens there. So other guys are going to have to step up. Mark Andrews, the Steelers have a problem covering, so I expect him to be heavily involved. I think Isaiah Likely scored in that matchup as well. So the tight ends are going to be heavily involved. And then, of course, you got Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson who can both run the football as well. Is this a year that Mike Tomlin can finally win a playoff game and we can, forget about this long playoff win drought that they've had? I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tall task. And the Steelers, they were in such a good position. They were 10-3. They were leading the division. It looked like, hey, they were going to, finish it off and they would be hosting a home playoff game. But then just that tough part of their schedule reared its ugly head. And they lost to 3 very good teams. They lost to a Bengals team that was desperate, that needed to win to make the playoffs. Or at least give them a chance to make the playoffs. And they lost all 4 games. And the offense has not looked great. They're turning the ball over. The defense doesn't seem to really be getting any pressure on these quarterbacks. It's not looking good right now. It's not looking good. And then on top of that, you got all the George Pickens drama, with him getting into it with fans. And he did not have a good game last week against the Bengals. Had some big drops in that game. He's got to step up. Now, the Steelers didn't have him in the previous matchup against the Ravens, so maybe, he goes out and has a big game. But, they got to limit the turnovers, and they have to find a way to slow down this Ravens offense. Now, again, Zay Flowers is not playing in this game, so that's huge. But you still got to deal with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Rashad Bateman's had a good year as well. And you got to slow down Derrick Henry. The Steelers' run defense was pretty good, but at times over this stretch, it's gotten gashed a little bit, particularly against Derrick Henry, because the Steelers against the run, they are 6th, and the Ravens are 1st. And then points allowed, both teams are top 10 as well. Both teams are not very good. Well, the Ravens have gotten better. Their defense has gotten better. They're 31st against the pass, but it's been better as of late. Steelers are 26th. But the Ravens are 8th in passing yards per game. The Steelers are 26th. Steelers are 11th in rushing yards per game. The Ravens are 1. And then points per game, Ravens are 3rd. Steelers are 16th. It's going to be tough. It is going to be a tall task. But there's some snow in the forecast. It's going to be 36 degrees, so we'll see how that plays a factor. But having said all that, I like the Ravens. I like the Ravens in this game. I can't, again, similar to Josh Allen against the Broncos, I just can't see Lamar Jackson losing this game. I don't. I know he has struggled against the Steelers, but I think he put that narrative to bed when they beat up on them in Baltimore. I just think they're going to win this game. I think they're the better team, and the Steelers are coming in flat right now. Russell Wilson, he's not the same quarterback that he was in Seattle. If you were getting that version, then maybe you got a shot. I mean, they still have a chance. They still have a shot. But I just think the Ravens are playing really good football right now, and I think they're going to win this game. And that'll set us up. If the Ravens and the Bills both win, we will see both of those teams face off in the second round. But yeah, I like the Ravens in that spot, or in this spot. I think they get the win. And if that happens, Steeler fans are not going to be happy, because their season is going to end the same as it has for the last several years now. So we'll find out. Listen, it's a divisional game. You never know what's going to happen. But yeah, I got to lean towards the Ravens here. Sorry, Steelers fans. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you think wins these two matchups? Let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our next break, we will preview the 2 Week 1 rematches. We got the Eagles and the Packers, and the Commanders and the Buccaneers. So we'll tackle those 2 games when we come back, and then I will get into revealing my playoff bracket, even though I kind of did that already. I spoiled it. So, yeah, that is what we will do when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the fourth part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about the Week 1 rematches in the first round of the NFL playoffs. We got the Eagles and the Packers, and the Commanders against the Buccaneers. Now, it was kind of funny how when I was organizing, the segments for today's show, because I put the Broncos and the Bills by itself. And then I realized as I was going through it, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. These two games, the remaining two games on Sunday are rematches from Week 1. So that works out perfectly. So, yeah, we're going to preview these two games here. We'll start off with the Eagles and the Packers. So they met in Week 1, one of the first of the two Week 1 rematches here. But this game, or that game, I should say, was played in Brazil. And I said this week, but that was a sloppy game. There were turnovers by both teams, but there was a lot of scoring. Saquon Barkley had 3 touchdowns in the game. He finished with 24 carries for 109 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, but he also had the receiving touchdown as well. A.J. Brown had 5 receptions for 119 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Smith had 7 for 84. Jalen Hurts went 20 of 34 for 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And then for the Packers, Jordan Love went 17 to 34 for 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He also got hurt in the game and missed some time. Josh Jacobs had 16 carries for 84 yards. Emmanuel Wilson had 4 for 46 as well. And then Romeo Doubs, he hit 4 for 50. Couple of interceptions by Jair Alexander and Xavier McKinney. And then the Packers defense had 2 sacks of Jalen Hurts. And the Eagles defense, did they have any sacks of Jordan Love? They had 2 sacks. Well, one of them was of Malik Willis because he came in to throw the Hail Mary at the end of the game. But yeah, the Eagles won that game at 34-29. And what to expect from this game? The Packers, they're coming in, losing 2 straight. The Eagles, when's the last time the Eagles lost a game? I have to go back and look. It's because it's been a while. They finished the year 14. Actually, no, it's not. It hasn't been a while because they lost to Washington. That's right. They lost in Week 16 to Washington. Jalen Hurts got hurt in that game. He is going to play in this game. He returned to practice. And I talked about if he was going to be rusty, if we should worry about that. I don't think so. But yeah, this is another game where I could see it possibly being a blowout in the Eagles' favor. But I think this game should be close because the Packers have not played great the past couple of weeks. I think they're due to play a good game. And, Jordan Love is coming in banged up. He was a full participant in practice, which is good. They are going to be without Christian Watson, which does hurt. But, these receivers got to step up. This is a very good Eagles pass defense that they're going to be going up against. But, someone's going to have to step up. Romeo Doubs had a good playoff game last year against the Cowboys. Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, the tight ends, Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, they're going to have to be utilized. The Packers, what they tried to do in the Vikings game is they really just, were trying to, establish the run with Josh Jacobs. And Josh Jacobs has had a great year. He's been solid. But, you can't be trying to establish the run when you're down by multiple scores. They got to get this passing game going. And now I sound like when I was talking about the Eagles not too long ago about their passing game and getting that going. But they're fine. The Packers defense is going to have their hands full because they're going to be going up against Saquon Barkley and Saquon Barkley had a season for the ages. He was 100 yards short of breaking Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record. And, of course, you got, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown that he got to deal with. And it's going to be tougher this time around. Now, A.J. Brown did have a touchdown in the first game, like I said, and that was with Jair Alexander. Now they don't have him in this game. He's out for the year. So, Packers are coming in banged up on defense, a little banged up on offense as well. So, yeah, I don't like how they're coming in. Now, yeah, Jalen Hurts hasn't played in a bit, but I don't really think that's going to be a factor. I think, he plays well against the Eagles or against the Packers usually. This year and when they met back in 2022, they played also. That was a shootout. That was back when Aaron Rodgers was a starter. But actually, Aaron Rodgers got hurt in that game, and then Jordan Love came in and he threw a touchdown pass to Christian Watson. So, but yeah, the Eagles put up like 40 points in that game. So, yeah, no, but the Eagles defense, I don't think they're going to be giving up as many points as they did the previous matchup. This Eagles defense is pretty good. They got two young corners. They're up there for Defensive Rookie of the Year in Cooper DeJean and Mitchell. So, yeah, no, we'll see how that all goes. But yeah, I do lean towards the Eagles in this game. I think they're the better team. They're the healthier team right now. Defensively, the Eagles are second against the pass. Both teams are top 10 against the run. So, we'll see, how the Packers handle Saquon Barkley, but I do worry about them against the pass. I think the Eagles are going to be winning this game through the air because the Packers are 14th against the pass. They give up an average of 232.9 passing yards per game. And then points allowed, both defenses are top 10. Eagles are second, Packers are sixth. Both teams are top 10 in rushing yards per game and in points per game. Passing yards per game, the Eagles are actually 30th. Packers are 16th. But yeah, I think Eagles are going to win this game. I think Saquon Barkley will have a good game, but I think you're going to see a lot of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. But yeah, I do lean towards the Eagles in this matchup. I just think they're the better team. But you know what? The Packers, they went on the road last year as a 7th seed against an NFC East opponent, and they won that game. So it would not shock me. I obviously would like to see the Packers win because, being a Giant fan, but I just think the Eagles are the better team. That's just what it comes down to. But we'll see what happens. It should be a good game. I think I did take the Packers with the points in my spread pool, but I don't know. Subject to change. And then we move on to the night game. This is also the second of the Week 1 rematches. And unlike the first one, which was played in a different location, this will be played in the same location. This will be played in Tampa, Florida, between the Washington Commanders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Washington is a 3-point underdog. Jaden Daniels, what a year he had. He actually was the leading rusher as well for the Commanders. So, yeah, he had 3,500 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, 9 picks, 891 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. Terry McLaurin had over 1,000 yards. He had 13 touchdowns this year. He found his quarterback. And then Baker Mayfield, he also had a good year. 4,500 yards passing, 41 touchdowns, 16 picks. Bucky Irving, their rookie running back, 8 rushing touchdowns, over 1,000 yards. Mike Evans got his 1,000 yards once again, and he had 11 touchdowns despite missing some time. The Bucs are top 3 in passing yards per game. The Commanders are 18th. Rushing yards per game, both teams are actually top 5. Commanders are 3rd. The Bucs are 4th. Points per game, both teams are top 5 as well. The Commanders are 5th and the Bucs are 4th. And then defensively, Commanders' defense is actually good against the pass, and we'll be seeing Marshawn Lattimore matching up against Mike Evans here. The Bucs' defense is 30th. And then against the run, the Bucs are actually 4th against the run. Commanders are 30th, and the Bucs like to run the football, so that's going to play a huge role in this game. And then points allowed, both teams are middle of the pack. Yeah, the first time these two teams met, it was 37-20. Baker Mayfield had 4 touchdown passes in the game. I think I went over this before. Chris Godwin had a touchdown. Mike Evans had 2. Jalen McMillan had 1, and he's been good as of late. Bucky Irving only had 62 yards on the ground. Jaden Daniels passed for under 200 yards. He had 184 passing yards, 17-24 he went. 88 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Brian Robinson Jr. had a touchdown. Eckler actually was their leading receiver. They'll have him for this game. They got him back after he was out with a concussion. But, I'm curious to see how it goes. I mean, it's going to be a different kind of game. The Commanders are a better team than how they were in Week 1. Jaden Daniels went through the whole year. Now he's got that NFL experience under his belt. But now he's going to be getting his first playoff experience, and we'll see how he responds. I think he will play well. I think this has the potential to be a very high-scoring game. Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers, it didn't look good for a while. It looked like, with all the injuries, it was going to be tough to overcome, but they were able to do that. They got some help from the Falcons struggling, and they're in the playoffs once again. And I do like them in this game. I think it'll be close. I think the Commanders could definitely win this game because I do worry about the Bucs heading in. Their pass defense is not great, like I just went over. And Jaden Daniels and that offense could put up points. So I do worry about that, but Baker Mayfield and the Bucs offense could put up points too. If Marshawn Lattimore is going to be on Mike Evans, then Jalen McMillan's going to have to step up. They're going to have to lean on their running game, which the Commanders are not good at stopping the run. So if they do that, I favor them in that respect. Yeah, I like the Bucs to win this game. I like them in this matchup. I think that Baker Mayfield will play well, and I think they'll do just enough that they'll get by and move on to the next round. So yeah, I don't see I don't have any of the losing teams winning their respective rematches, but it could definitely happen. But yeah, I lean towards the Buccaneers. They're at home, and I just like them in this spot. So I got the Eagles and the Buccaneers winning their games. But yeah, let me know what you guys think though about this. Who do you think wins these games? Let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our final break of the show, I will go over the rest of the playoffs, how I see the rest of the playoffs shaping out, and that will take us right to the end of the show and into the weekend. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the final part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about my playoff bracket, how I see the playoffs playing out, where everything will be when we get to the Super Bowl. Now, I did give my Super Bowl prediction way back when, and before the season started. So this is kind of how I see the playoffs shaping out. So I gave you my predictions for the first round. But this is how, and now again, I revealed it prematurely because I thought I had a Steelers graphic for the Steelers-Ravens game, but I forgot I didn't. So this is how I see it playing out. So I kind of gave you now that I think about it, I kind of gave you how I see the rest of it playing out without, going over the Rams-Vikings game, which we will go over on Monday. But yeah, this is how I see it playing out. Now, if you take a look at it, you'll probably say, well, you really didn't have any upsets. This is kind of chalked, as they say. But, yeah, I mean, it is true. But it's just, like the 2s against the 7s, I couldn't take the Broncos to upset the Bills. Now, I think the Packers could upset the Eagles. I think they have a better chance of doing that than the Broncos have of upsetting the Bills. But, yeah, I just couldn't do it. The Commanders, I could see upsetting the Buccaneers, but I just think Baker Mayfield is playing really good football right now, and I like them at home. And then, we'll go over it on Monday, the preview of the Rams-Vikings game. But, yeah, right now I have penciled in the Vikings moving on. And then on the AFC side, yeah, like I said, I got the Chargers, got the Ravens, and the Bills. And then I got the Buccaneers taking on the Eagles, the Vikings taking on the Lions again. Now, the Buccaneers did beat up on the Eagles earlier this season. The Eagles were without A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and that was in Tampa. Now this game would be in Philly. They're going to have both wide receivers, and the defense is playing much better because the defense did not play well in that game. I would like the Eagles to win that matchup. So I'd have them in the NFC Championship game. Lions against the Vikings. I mean, this is just the Lions' year. I think the Vikings would play a little bit better against the Lions than they did in the matchup that we just saw to finish off the regular season. So I would put the Vikings in. I got the Vikings in the second round, but then I got the Lions advancing to the NFC Championship game. And then on the AFC side, the Bills-Ravens game, I really hope we do get that. I hope we get a rematch of that because I think that game would be spectacular. That could be one of the best games of the playoffs if we do end up getting that. The two MVP candidates. I really hope that's what we get. Well, because the Bills would be at home, I would favor them over the Ravens. But it would be very close. It would be a very close game. And then the same thing with the Chargers, and the Chiefs. Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes, they play close games against each other usually. And, especially the two games this year, the Chargers lost both of them. But, the first matchup, they lost 17-10, and the other one, they lost 19-17. And it was on a last-second field goal, which was, not a double doink, but it hit off the one of the uprights and went in and didn't come back into the field, which is why, people say the Chiefs are lucky. Because for other teams, it would hit off the upright and, come back onto the field, but that didn't happen. So, yeah, and then I'd have the Bills winning and the Chiefs winning, of course. So the championship games would be the 1s against the 2s. But again, that's just how I just think that's how good these teams are. Now, could I see the Ravens upsetting the Bills, if you want to call it an upset? Yeah, I could definitely see that. But I just think, we're on a collision course for these Final Four teams. The Eagles-Lions game, that is something that I want to see. How are these two teams going to match up against each other? I do worry when we get to this point because I could definitely see these games going either way. Now, on the AFC side, Patrick Mahomes is undefeated against Josh Allen in the playoffs. And, last year they played on the road, and now, the Chiefs, they're at home this time. Maybe we get another game like we did a few years ago in the divisional round where, it's just points galore. But, I think if we get these two championship games, they're going to be two very entertaining games. The Bills did get the best of the Chiefs earlier this season. What's going to happen here if this is what we end up getting? And then with the Lions and the Eagles, look, the Lions hopefully will be getting some more players back. The defense played well against the Vikings on Sunday. Like I said, they got Alexander Deloney back. That was huge. So, yeah, I would worry about the Lions going into this game because I think the Eagles, on paper maybe have the better roster. But I can't. I got to put the Lions in the Super Bowl. Well, and that's what I had at the beginning of the year. I had Lions Chiefs. It's still intact. Both teams are the 1 seed. I got to put them. I got to put them in the Super Bowl. I have to. And that's what I did. They're in the Super Bowl, and I got the Chiefs winning it. I got the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. I got them three-peating. And, this year, offense struggled, but you know what? It didn't really matter because they still won games, and they got Hollywood Brown back, and the offense looks like it's starting to click. And, they got this long time to rest now, because, they locked up home field advantage on Christmas, and that was on a random Wednesday. And, they didn't play their starters. Then you got this week, and then they'll be playing next week. So, yeah, the layoff, I guess there's maybe a little bit of a concern there, but it's the Chiefs. They can handle anything. So, yeah, this is how I see the bracket playing out. And I used the Gridiron's Bleacher Report's template, and I used Superimpose to, fill it out with the logos of the teams. But, yeah, I know. I am kind of lame with how I did it. I didn't have any major upsets. I got the 5s beating the 4s. If that counts, that's got to count, right? Even though the Vikings are 14-3. But, yeah. Again, I could see the Packers. I could see the Commanders winning. Maybe the Steelers pull something off. But, and then who knows? When we get to the championship games, could the Eagles beat the Lions? They definitely can. That worries me the most. Is if the Lions match up with the Eagles. Because I think the Eagles could 100% knock them off. But I had the Lions at the beginning of the year. So, and the Lions offense is tough to deal with. But, the Eagles got the firepower on offense to keep up with them. They got the best running back in the NFL. And they got 2 very good wide receivers. And I just think that would be tough. But we got a little bit before we get to that. Maybe the Eagles get knocked down in the first round and then forget what I said. Maybe we get an NFC North championship game. Maybe the Buccaneers, they go into Philly if that's what we get and they knock them off. I don't know. But this is what I have. Like I said, probably will end up being wrong. Something will end up going the wrong way. As long as my Super Bowl prediction stays intact. As long as we get to that. Because, like I said, I have been wrong about a lot of things this year with certain teams. As long as I get the Super Bowl prediction right, I'm okay with that. So, but I do have the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. But I am really excited for these playoff games this weekend. I know when I made the list of, least intriguing to most intriguing, it's tough to rank those kinds of things. But I am excited. I think the playoffs are going to be really good. And, who knows? Maybe we don't get Lions Chiefs. Maybe we get something else, which is definitely possible. I have said I think any NFC team can make a run. Because it's just that competitive. But it's going to be a lot of fun. It really is. And, yeah, we just got to enjoy it. Because it's going to go very fast. And then, we got the national championship game coming up next Monday. Not this Monday, following Monday, January 20th. We got the Ohio State Texas game tonight. So, yeah, football 5 days in a row. You had the Penn State Notre Dame game last night. You have the Texas Ohio State game tonight. Then you got the 2 wild card games tomorrow, the 3 on Sunday, and then the 1 on Monday, which actually got moved to Arizona because of the ongoing fires in California. Which seeing some of the videos, it's really tough people's houses just being burned down by these fires. It really is. It's horrible. And my thoughts and prayers go out to all the people affected by it. It's really a tough situation. I can't even imagine it. I really can't. It's really tough to see that. Just hope that this gets taken care of, which it has. I see the videos of the the firefighters putting the fires out, and then shout out to them, because that is just they're putting their lives on the line there in that situation. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. There's no other way to say it. But yeah, so the playoff game, Rams-Vikings, that is going to be moved to Arizona on Monday. So because of that reason. But and like I always say, it's always hard to kind of segue away from a sensitive topic like that. But yeah, it's a tough situation. So that's kind of not the way I wanted to end off the show, but it was going to be brought up at some point, whether it was today or Monday, because yeah, like I said, the videos that I've seen on social media, it's horrible. It's heartbreaking. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it though for the show for today. I apologize for the kind of the way this is going to end off, but like I said, there's no easy way to kind of transition from a topic like that. So, but yeah, so like I said, got one game tonight, got all the games this weekend. We'll preview the game on Monday, even though I kind of showed you who I have winning that game already. But we'll get into the specifics why. Of course, we'll cover the game, and then of course we'll recap all the games from this weekend, and then we'll get you set for the divisional round the following weekend. So yeah, make sure to tune in on Monday. That is all the time that we got for the show. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. And until next time, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the games. And I will talk to you guys on Monday. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the